All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Rod Soto, and I'm your host today for this meeting of Pacific Hackers. Today, we're going to have Aastha Sahni. We're very thankful that she's here today to present about cyber threat hunting skills. You probably have seen my browser. This is our Meetup page, which is meetup.com/Pacific Hackers. We meet every month, and we are a part of a bigger group, which is we put it under the umbrella of what we call the Percent 27. The Percent 27 is was born in Miami with Hack Miami. So Hack Miami is a sister group located in Florida, which is also a meetup, meetup.com/Hack Miami. We try to meet every month, and every month we try to bring new basically presentations that can help our members. We're an open group. Everybody is welcome. We basically try to help those who are trying to break into cybersecurity, and we have people that have been in the industry for a while and try to help those who are basically trying to break cybersecurity. We have all kinds of professionals, from old school hackers, infosec people, people at the academia. We got a very good diverse group, and that makes it pretty interesting. We have a lot of resources. If you need help finding a job, we have a job channel. We have a training channel. We have a tool channel. We have a coding channel. We have a lot of resources for those who are trying to seek help or progress in their careers. I invite you to join us. We have a Discord channel and a Slack channel. I am going to post those links in and then mingle, and don't be afraid to ask any questions. Don't be afraid to try to reach out to somebody. We try to break that old school thing of being cliquish and not being very welcoming. We actually try to be open to everybody, and those who have been in our group know that there's a reason why I choose public and open libraries, because you can come, you like it, great, stay. If you don't, then that's fine. No, there's no catch here. We're not going to charge you anything. There's not like an Herbalife scam. Everything is free here, but it's going to cost you some time. It's your time, an investment. If you really want to break into the industry, and you will meet some very interesting people, all kinds of people. So I invite you to try us out, and we always look forward to expand the community. I believe we have a lot of people from New York. We actually we were very active in New York. We had a gotten at one point, but it sort of died off. We used to participate a lot in Hope. When it was in Hotel Pennsylvania, I actually run a capture the flag once. I think it was in Hope 2012, and that was the longest capture the flag I ever done. It was a full 24-hour, and it was pretty me going out and trying to find White Castle in Manhattan at 2-3 a.m. and those guys were still hitting those boxes, and it was pretty exciting. And that was an amazing con, and hopefully one day we'll do it again. So I will soon post the link for you guys for Discord and Slack. And like I said, today we're gonna have Aastha Sahni, and she is in New York, and she is instructor at Iron School. And today she's going to be speaking about cyber threat hunting skills. And she's been in the industry for over 5 years. Worked in identity access management, vulnerability management, and SIM. So Aastha, if you are ready to go, now I'm going to give you, going to set you as a presenter. And we should be able to start.
Thank you so much, Rod, for the lovely introduction. So,
Hold on.
if everybody's ready.
Hold on, let me set you as a presenter.
Sure.
Let's see. So you are. Roll to center. There you go. Take it away.
Thank you so much. So let me share the presentation. So let me know if everybody sees it.
That's I can see it. That's cool.
Okay. So hi everyone, this is Aastha. Today we are going to talk about threat hunting, and we'll be focusing on one specific methodology in threat hunting, which is known as OODA loop. So before starting, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. I'm currently a lead instructor in Flatiron School. So I teach students SIM, which is Security, Information and Event Management, and the basics and foundations of cyber threat hunting. I'm an active member of OWASP NYC. I'm part of a community known as InfoSec Girls, which is globally headed by Vandana Verma. So for the New York chapter, I am the lead here with Zoe Britterman. And I have started a small initiative, educational initiative known as Cyber Preserve, where what I do is I provide a learning platform to individuals who want to transition their career into cyber. And sometimes things happen like this, like we are already into cyber. We are touching some part of cyber, but we are not aware about it. So basically, I provide a small foundational course about from the learning of my master's program in information security management. So I've created a foundational course, and some professionals based on invitation, whenever I start the mentorship program in certain intervals, they join me through this mentorship program, and through that they learn some of the foundations about the cybersecurity area, and we connect the dots. So basically the educational program and initiative is mostly about connecting the dots among individuals about cybersecurity, so that they are not only learning skills about cyber, but they are also learning that somehow, somewhere in their career at some point they have touched cyber. So this is it about my introduction. So let me move forward about today's concept. So today, first of all, before discussing about OODA loop, we are going to discuss about what is threat hunting, okay? Then what are some of the requirements? We are going to discuss about a very important term in threat hunting, which is known as dwell time. And then we will eventually we'll move into the direction of OODA loop. So before moving forward, I will be discussing all these topics. And once I'm done with the session, I'm open for any questions you have. So once I complete this session, I'll be happy to take your doubts. So let's start. So basically, what's threat hunting? So in cyber, whenever we are actually identifying threats, so basically what we are doing is we are trying to protect data. Okay, and cyber comes from a superset of information security. So actually what we are doing is we are trying to protect sensitive data. We are trying to protect information. So all the tools, all the areas, different areas of cyber which you come across, the aim is main, like we are trying to protect data, but these different domains are actually contributing their part for protecting information. So what's threat hunting? Threat hunting term is not new to us. We know we are identifying threats. Everybody can say that, hey, we are doing threats, we are identifying threats, and we are hunting for them, identifying them. And that's how we work in cyber. We are identifying threats. Okay, that's cool. Everybody knows. Now, what's the whole concept about threat hunting? Why it is so separate and talked about? So basically in threat hunting, what we are doing is we are proactively looking for anomalies in our environment. What does that mean? So in the last few years, when cyber has grown into a specific named domain, in past 20 years, when cyber had not emerged as a separate domain, it was already part of information technology, which is IT. Now, how it grown from how it grown into a separate domain, the reason is that earlier we were able to detect threats, like we learned as cyber attackers and hackers, as they moved on in actually I would say successfully accomplishing their goals of either stealing information, doing any kind of compromise. as they moved across, like as professionals, as we found them, as we saw, we named them as threats, okay? Small threats, big threats, whatever the name we gave it to them. The point here is that when we are identifying threats, these threat actors are becoming equally strong. They are becoming equally advanced. In the past 10 years, we have identified those kinds of advanced threats where attackers were sitting in your network for a longer period of time. And that longer period of time, trust me, it's not just few days or months. They were like close to an year. And this was the startling point from where we try to identify that even though we are implementing skills, like we are implementing different tools like vulnerability assessment, we were into identity access management, we were into application security, network security, cloud security. Okay, every domain has its own place. Now, why threat hunting has become so important in the past 5, 6, or 8 years? Because in threat hunting, we are not actively, we are proactively looking for threats in our environment. We are trying to think from an attacker's point of view or a hacker's point of view. Okay. And what we are doing here is, now when we know they have grown advanced in their techniques, we have to become one step ahead of them. Until or unless we are not one step ahead of them, we will be always finding them, like you will be always detecting them when they have already compromised. Like in the last few years, we have heard about threats like Heartbleed. WannaCry ransomware is nothing new. Everybody has heard about WannaCry ransomware. So what actually happened? Why somehow in all these attacks, we were not able to identify threat actors and how they were performing these attacks? In some situations, we were ignoring. Maybe we can say that we were not protecting our environment properly. But in some situations where advanced persistent threats like APT1, zero-day attacks. So APTs are known as advanced persistent threats, where attackers are dwelling and living in your environment for a very long period of time. So how can we just protect our organization by being reactive? That we find something, we are finding some compromise, we are finding some indicators of compromises, and then we are taking some action. We identify something and then we are taking actions. So how we can be strong enough to protect our organization after just using tools and becoming reactive only. So we come up with the technique of cyber threat hunting, where we are not only implementing reactive areas of security, we are using some proactive methodologies and tools in order to become more efficient. Or I would say, for example, if we consider stages of attack. So if is it not easy, is it not good if we detect some attack or threat at a very early stage, then at a stage when we have already found that some part of our internal network has already been compromised? So all in all, the main aim of threat hunting is to, first of all, expedite our detection process of threats, at the same time reducing our investigation and forensics cost. So what we are doing is, we are trying to identify threats at a very initial stage or as soon as possible, so that we are not only detecting them before time, but also we are taking necessary steps immediately so that we have minimal business disruption. Now, when coming to dwell time, this dwell time is actually calculated as the number of days an attacker is present in a network before they are detected. So according to FireEye Mandiant, so FireEye is a cybersecurity solutions provider organization. They provide solutions for like proactively detecting threats and mitigating them. So every year they come up with a Mandiant report which talks about this dwell time. So in 2011, the dwell time for an attacker inside a network was 416 days. And now, after implementing some of the proactive cyber threat hunting skills, we have reduced that dwell time to 56 days. So see, it's not about like eliminating everything which can be possible. It's about like at a situation, how first we can improve ourselves. So cyber threat hunting is about continuously improving ourselves. It's like a loop where we're continuously trying to improve ourselves from the current position to reach to a situation where we are smarter than the attackers. So this is like a basics and like background about why threat hunting, what's the basic definition, why it came up. Now let's move on to the methodology of OODA loop. So first of all, OODA loop is one of the proactive practical methodologies which can be or which should be, and a lot of organizations are implementing them in their day-to-day routine. So basically how it came up, what's actually this term OODA loop? So OODA loop was developed by United States Air Force Colonel John Boyd, okay, and they were at a military, I would say military operations at that time. And why did he came up with this terminology of OODA loop? Why? So OODA loop is like a proactive strategy where, according to your current situation, you are taking some necessary actions which are not only immediate, but they are effective also. So for example, when you are in a battlefield and your enemy is in the opposite, you're fighting, so you do not have time to actually think about the possible solutions and decisions. You have very less time to come up with good techniques, implement them, and at the same time making sure they are effective in your direction. Okay, so whatever techniques, whatever I would say implementation in a battlefield, like for example, if we are in a battlefield, okay, and we know what are the possible weaknesses of our enemy, and suddenly we are in a situation where we can immediately identify what immediate actions we should take so that we are in a win-win situation. So basically this OODA loop came from military operation strategy, where militants, they have minimum time to take good decisions and as well as implement them. So why OODA loop is being used in case of cyber threat hunting? Because in threat hunting, again, we are in an attack situation, though that is not a physical attack and we do not have an enemy, but attacker is our enemy. Okay, if they are trying to attack our organization, they are trying to compromise our information, steal our sensitive information, they are enemies. So if we identify, okay, so the very important thing for us in case of our organization is that if we are trying to protect our organization, it becomes important for us to identify attackers in a very less period of time at the very initial stage. When the attackers are in the very initial stage of attack, it becomes really important for us to identify them, and not only identify them and take necessary actions against them, like whatever possible remediations we can take, removal we can take, investigations we have to do if we identify something. So how to do that in a very short period of time? Because if somebody is in your network, okay, if you find any anomaly in your network, how would you take immediate actions? So OODA loop actually helps you take necessary actions, right actions, and effective actions in a very short duration of time. So the very first stage of OODA loop is observe. So basically, let me go back. So the full form of OODA loop is observe, orient, decide, and act. Okay. So observe, orient, decide, act will flow in a way like, for example, you observe something, okay, through any alerts or through your real, in cyber, we use some real-time monitoring tools, and SIM, which is security information and event management, is one of the domain of cyber in which we are performing some real-time monitoring, analysis, investigations. Okay, or same is with your IDS, IPS tools like real-time alerting and stuff. So basically, in the observe stage, we are trying to observe something in our environment. In orient stage, we are trying to make our position in our direction where we are now investigating. And decide means like finally the stage when we have observed something, oriented ourselves, we are taking some necessary decisions and acting upon them. So let's discuss them one by one. Like what are the things, what are the possible tools involved in each stage? So In the observe stage, what we are doing, we are continuously detecting changes around us. So for example, if we are using a SIM tool, okay, and basically in a SIM tool, what we do is we are collecting logs from all possible sources, which is your assets in your organization, which are important to us from security point of view. Okay, so what does that mean? So basically logs are like real-time records, which are generated in systems, in network devices and stuff. And why we are using like the SIM methodology, because using SIM tools, we can perform some real-time monitoring on our data, okay, on our environment using log data. And then we have like IDS, IPS tools, we have vulnerability assessment tools to assess real-time vulnerabilities in our environment. Okay, so now in case of the observe phase, what we are trying to do, we are making sure that our tools, okay, are configured properly. Okay, alerts are set up in our tools. We are doing like for monitoring, we have everything in place. So for example, in case of SIM tool, we have collected all the required logs. Okay, and at the same time, we have created necessary alerts. We have incorporated necessary functionalities in our SIM tool for real-time monitoring. Same is with your IDS, IPS and vulnerability assessment tools, where you are making sure, see, the important thing is, in order to observe something in your environment through your cybersecurity tools, first of all, we need to configure them in a right way. In order to observe them, you should be getting right kind of log data. You should be setting up some right kind of alerts, so that in a real-time environment, you are continuously monitoring changes. What's happening in my network? What's happening in my applications? What's happening in my various network devices and systems? How certain users are performing? What's their use? For example, what kind of email a person is downloading? What action is being done on that email? Is it a phishing email? So all these activities are tracked through these tools. So we are in real world observing malicious activities or abnormalities in our network through these tools. So the very first step of OODA loop is to continuously detect changes around us. Now, next step in OODA loop is to orient. For example, in your network, you found a packet which like, okay, let's see a situation where in your network you found that a user downloaded a file, and after that, in that particular user system, through logs, you identify that a new executable file is now running. Okay, a new process is running in that particular system, eventually just after when they downloaded an email. So now you identified something, like something is fishy, like this person downloaded some email and suddenly a new process is seen in their system, which is running, which is looking as a normal process in our like Windows like in any operating system. Like we have some of the processes which are by default running in our operating systems, but they look legitimate, but somehow it's rare. A process which usually does not run every day, you found out that. Or to make it more simple, for example, you saw in your firewall logs that an IP address outside your network is constantly trying to connect with your network and your firewall is denying it. So your firewall is denying it is actually a point where you observe something. Okay. Now in the orientation phase, you are you are making yourself you're orienting yourself in that direction because you observe something. Now your focus is going there. Okay. Now at this stage, if you see a particular IP address trying to reach your network and is being denied by the firewall, then you start investigating on that particular IP address. So for that purpose, you would be doing some security research. You would be using some open source threat intelligence tool, and you will be performing analysis and investigation here. Like, what is this IP address? Is it blacklisted? Does this IP address is a bot? It's a bot, or it's a command and control IP address. So what is it? So then you start to evaluate what's happening in your real-time situation. So now from your observation, you have oriented yourself. Once you have oriented yourself and after an investigation, you found out like, no, this IP address is wrong. It can be malicious and we should take some necessary actions. Now, when you are in a situation of deciding, okay, now, decision is that part where if any security incident happens in your organization And you know, like in your investigation part, like in your orientation part, you have done all the investigation, you have found out the root cause, like how a particular security incident happened. And once after the investigation, now you have to take some decision. And this decision here would be, what should be our plan of remediation? Okay, so if some systems are affected by an attack, or they are in a situation where they can be affected by an attack, what should we do? Should we remove those systems from those networks? If we need to keep some information, and definitely in most of the situation, it's recommended, do not switch off or plug off those systems. So then what should we do? What should be the necessary actions? Should we place some honeypot? Should we segregate them from our network? And at this particular time, we have to look at our organization's policies and procedures. Okay, so we have to be aligned with all the documentations, policies, and procedures, so that any action which we are taking in response to a attack situation, it should not be, I would say, it should not be anything which is illegal, and we should be taking all the right steps so that there is minimal business disruption. Also, at this point, we are in a situation, we are consulting, like if we have consultants in our organization, so meetings happen, we come up with a remediation plan. Incident response team, they come into picture at this particular situation, that when we have, like, either we have an in-house incident response team, or we actually hire some third-party companies for performing incident response. So, like, do we have an incident response team in picture? Do we have an incident response checklist? Do we have everything ready in order to take action against this particular security incident? So all this is done at the stage of the decision, which is decide. Now, our last stage of act. What does act mean? So now, after all the analysis which we have done in the orientation stage, and when we come up to the decision, so decisions involves a lot of actions. Like, according to company, every organization is different, and every organization might be affected by a security attack in a different way. And all different organizations have different standards and procedures which they follow. So based on that, when they come up with a remediation plan, now incident response team, okay, so they are acting on it. Okay, so what do we do at this stage? First of all, whatever systems were impacted by certain attack, we bring them back to a normal functioning. What does that mean? For example, if any malicious software was installed in certain systems, so we'll clean them. Okay, if we found out that during our investigation in our ODN phase, if some of our systems needed any kind of upgradation, we will be doing an upgradation here as well. So acting is when we are completely removing attacks, threat, any, like it's like whatever, in whatever way. Okay, our systems have been impacted through any malicious files. Okay, if certain ports were open, then we need to close certain ports through which attack was happening. So basically, in your orientation phase, what you're doing is you're trying to identify, investigate, and find out that, first of all, what is the attack, from where it is coming, from where it is started. In decision phase, you decide on what necessary actions we can take. And in the act stage, whatever decisions you have taken, you actually implement on them. So basically, if you found out in your investigation that certain ports were open, due to them, some remote code execution was being done, or somebody installed a phishing mail, so some malicious file was being installed. So whatever was impacting, we will undo everything. Okay, so we will be cleaning our system, closing some ports permanently. Then after that, we'll be making sure that these systems are working back normal. So we'll perform a validation also. So in validation, we'll be performing vulnerability assessment again. For example, if we took some necessary steps in order to remediate an attack, so in the action stage, we perform vulnerability scanning again here. So to check that whatever we have done to make our system secure, affected system secure, do they still have some vulnerabilities? Are we missing something? Is there any gap? So we identify them, and the action stage perform all the validations, cleaning, this is the stage where we do some kind of lessons learned. Like, for example, once we have come out of an incident, then we have several meetings with the team where we identify what was the gap. Do we have sufficient security controls? Do we need to create some additional alerts in our some real-time tools? Okay, what kind of alerts should be there? What was the gap? Do we need more professionals in our team? So these are the lessons learned. Then creating security trainings and awareness. So for example, if certain insecurity incident happen due to negligence or lack of awareness of certain employee, then it becomes nowadays very important to train your employees about common threats so that they identify. For example, if they receive a phishing mail, they would be able to identify it. They will not open such mails. So that becomes an important part. So basically, OODA loop is like a continuous learning loop. Okay. So whatever you have learned here, okay. So whatever you have learned in this whole process of remediating an incident, you kind of improve yourself. Like, what are the things that we should not be doing from the next time? Do we need to increase our budget? Do we need to get some more tools? Like, what are the ways in order to protect our internal network more? Should we be implementing some kind of active defenses, like installing honeypots, using some defenses where we are installing honey active directories? So what are the techniques we can use for the next time to identify these kinds of threats, which we have just gone through in a very initial stage, and we are not again the same victim of it? So this is the act stage. So basically, as I mentioned, OODA loops helps us in kind of building a continuous intelligence to our security program. So here, see, when we say threat hunting, we are basically focusing on 3 areas. Okay. So first of all, if we are proactively trying to identify threats in our environment, okay. So first of all, 3 things are very important. Situational awareness, how much you know your how much you know the environment of your organization. And it's not about know, it's about knowing, because every day changes are occurring in our environment. So we should be it's like we should be updated with the situational changes. Okay. Then threat hunting again is based on knowledge. Okay. So if I say we are trying to proactively detect threats, somehow we are taking some advanced knowledge. Professionals who are in the domain of cyber threat hunting, they are continuously in the process of learning about more advanced threats. They are trying to think from the point of view, what can be the possible techniques and procedures which can be used by threat actors in the coming future. This is one thing. Second thing is, like, currently we have non-profit organizations like MiterAttack.org, which is the non-profit organization, which focus on identifying techniques and procedures of some advanced level threats, which are known as APTs. Now, how we can leverage these kinds of areas, like these organizations and information provided by them. Definitely, if a certain organization which is similar to your organization, or certain threats which are common to all types of organizations. So basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to identify tactics, techniques, and procedures about the latest advanced threats. Based on those techniques and procedures followed by the attackers, we are trying to identify those patterns in our environment, in our logs. So basically what we are not able to do from our real-time tools, using our knowledge, using our situational awareness, and plus using automation and analytics. It's very much important, but like it's very much important from the point of view of detection. So machine learning algorithms, then including automation tools, like we currently have security orchestration, automation, and response tools. So for example, how these tools are helping, they are trying to reduce a lot of manual effort. So if something has been alerted in these SIM tools, so in like logs and alerts, they are sent out to these SOAR tools. These SOAR tools are taking some necessary actions on investigating them. So basically a lot of your manual effort is being I would say saved by using some automation and machine learning algorithms, where we train, like for example, if you are using some machine learning algorithms, I would say There are platforms like in Splunk, we have Splunk QBA. So once you start using these tools in integration with your SIM tools, so what you're trying to do, and what OODA loop is trying to tell you, that in order to be proactive, okay, in your approach of identifying threats, so what things you can include in your observe, orient, decide, and act stage. For example, in the observe stage, how you can include tools for real-time monitoring. In orientation stage, how you can include open source threat intelligence platforms, how you can integrate them with your existing tools to help you identify threat patterns more easily. Then in your decision stage, what can be the possible best decisions we can take based on the nature of the organizations and the environment of the organization. Plus, again, in your orientation stage, using some automation tools which can provide. I'm not saying that automation tools will give you all the kind of analysis. Like, for example, if we are investigating, if we are analyzing a threat using automated tools, and they would be providing us 100% result. No, that's not possible. For small threats, they can do that. But for complex threats, they will actually perform a job for you. Like, for example, if you're doing 100% of work in like kind of in investigating threats and analyzing them, 50% work would be done by these SOAR tools. For example, if an alert has been generated for a firewall denial, okay, so if a firewall is denying a packet for more than 5 times, an alert is generated that is being sent to a SOAR tool. So that SOAR tool will first of all identify what's the IP address on its own. A lot of your manual effort can be, I would say, reduced by using SOAR tools, where we can write some workflows, automated workflows, and we can implement orchestration, where a lot of manual efforts which you have to do in person, like finding out what's an IP address is doing, and some generic info, like some generic information analysis which we perform on logs as part of manual analysis, can be done by automation. And at the same time, these automation tools can help you raise some automatic tickets, like ServiceNow tickets, if you want to raise some tickets, and those tickets would be assigned to the incident response team for further action. So a lot of your work can be reduced by using machine learning algorithms and automated tools. And OODA loop is actually telling you to do that. Like in first stage, how to be more fast in detecting threats, like in observing them, what changes we can make in our environment. So after acting upon a security incident, where I mentioned, where we discuss about the lesson learned and where we talk about the gaps. So maybe the gaps can be that the organization didn't implement automation yet. So now they would be thinking to implement some kind of security orchestration and response tools, then after that, including some machine learning algorithms in detection of some advanced threats using deep learning. So all that can be done with the help of the practical methodology of OODA loop. So we are done with the session. So if you have any questions, so definitely you can ask now. You can reach out to me on my Gmail ID. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Do you guys have any questions? No questions? Okay, I actually posted the Discord invite if you guys want to join. It is in the chat. And I'll thank you very much for attending this meeting. This meeting will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Go ahead.
Somebody has.
You have a question.
Okay, what are some steps? What are some tool steps I can take if I notice a domain errors in R? Okay, so we can use some open source threat intelligence tools which have some by default list of IP address which are malicious. And for domain names, for example, we have a tool known as a website like software which is known as VirusTotal. We can identify some malicious URL hashes using VirusTotal. Can you suggest a few ways to stay current on the latest threats being used by attackers? So definitely you can there are many, I would say, companies, like I just forget some of the names, which are very consistent in providing cyber news about various kinds of attacks. And again, LinkedIn is a good way. Like if you are connected to all the cyber professionals and you connect with them on LinkedIn, so that's the stage, like that's the point where a lot of us are sharing news. Like the latest I saw was an ransomware attack on a coffee machine. So that was very weird and that was very insightful. So I can share like some of the news articles which are like which are definitely writing on cyber only. I can share that on LinkedIn, so, and on Discord as well, so I will do that. And Dave has a question that what is the difference between orient and decide? So Dave, actually in orient, see, if you identify some abnormal pattern, it can be it can be an abnormal network traffic. It can be some kind of anomaly in your application, or it can be some kind of anomaly in your system through logs. So if you identify something abnormal, then it's like in the observation phase, basically what we are trying to do is we are first trying to identify if something is wrong, right or wrong. Okay. Then once you observe something, then you go to the orientations. Orient means you are you're actually moving your direction. Okay. You're directing yourself in that particular direction. Okay. So it's like once you observe something, now you're looking into that direction into more detail. So orient means where if you find something abnormal, then you try to dig deep down, basically investigate. Now in the investigation phase, we would be including threat intelligence platforms. So for example, if I think a particular log has some kind of malicious URL or a file hash or an IP address, so definitely here at this stage I would be doing a deep dive investigation in order to find out if whatever I have observed and I'm thinking is right or wrong. Okay, so investigation is not only about finding out what are the root causes of an attack, but always to find out if it is a if it's a it's a false positive or not. So false positive means if some alert or some of your observation you think you identify is malicious, or if you feel that it can be related to a cybersecurity incident, or it can be an initial stage of an attack where you just observe it and you are using your intuition and your knowledge, your situational awareness about the environment of your organization. You observe something, and in the orientation phase, you are performing deep dive investigation. So that's orientation. And in decision, once you have identified what's happening, then you take necessary decision. Like each organization, as I mentioned, is different. So what's the best decision plan for you? Okay. What should we do with the systems which are already being affected? Should we remove them? Should we clean them? What are the possible situation of according, like what's our current situation? Okay, if we are in a situation of attack, so what are the possible actions we can take? What's the road to be taken, which is not only best for remediation, but for the company's reputation and business as well? So that's the decision part. Yeah, I do have some books with me as well on cyber threat hunting guide. So I can share that as well. Okay, so is it correct to say that Orient is focused observation? Orientation is based on observation. It is dependent on observation. If you are not configuring your tools properly for monitoring, definitely your orientation can also be wrong. Okay, you can be missing something, but you can be guessing something right as well. So basically, I would say, the major stage where we have to be very cautious is the observation stage. It all depends on our observation. If we are configuring our tools right, then definitely our observation will be right, and our orientation will also be right. So orientation is like a direction which we take. If you, like, for example, if in a sky you're looking for a bird, okay, and you start observing it, and then you orient yourself in the direction of the bird's movement. So it's like that.
I was also going to say that we do have a threat intel channel in Discord and a Slack, and it's basically like a crowdsourced channel where members post things that they believe they're relevant. Any other questions?
Same to you, Kevin.
Yeah, I can. If there are any other questions, well, thank you very much. This meeting was recorded. It will be posted in our channel. Remember to subscribe to our Meetup so you know what's coming up next. I place the invite if you want to keep in touch for events, tools, jobs, conferences, you name it. We got all kinds of stuff going on. So again, thank you, Aastha, for this time, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.